What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It's time to recap Thursday Night Football. A pretty thrilling and regardless, extremely important game between the Packers and the Titans as Tennessee emerges from Lambeau Field. Victorious 27-17. Joining me to break it down, Ryan Wilson and John Breech. What's up, boys?
Breech, got a quick question for you. You said, and I agreed with you, if the Packers were able to beat Tennessee and then come back and beat the Eagles after the bye, we'd feel better about them. And we'll get into great detail, but I just want a short answer. How do you feel about the Packers as we sit here?
I went from 15% chance of making the playoffs to 0.
Okay, there you have it.
That's how I feel.
All right, so they can end the season. Okay.
Yeah, a win tonight by the Packers would have definitely gotten them into RELAX territory, maybe. But I think let's start with the Titans because, I mean, here we are again. I mean, Derrick Henry's dominating. Ryan Tannehill's playing pretty good football, and Mike Vrabel's just coaching this team to the top of the AFC. They were the number one seed in the AFC last year. Really had no business being there. They get rid of A.J. Brown this offseason. They lose Harold Landry to injury, and they're 7-3. The next closest team to them in the division are the Colts at 4-5-1. Like, they are on cruise control to win this division once again after all of us idiots picked another team, whether it's the Colts or the Jaguars. And I mean, like, I don't know if they can go win a Super Bowl, but man, I mean, Mike Vrabel might be the most underrated coach in the NFL.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the question I asked Brady on the Brady Quinn podcast in terms of this matchup. He and LaFleur. He likes LaFleur too, and I think Brady actually made some good points as well because I like to sleep on LaFleur as being just a.
It's because he looks like Breech. That's the problem for us, I think.
Well, he's
used to. I don't look like anymore. I've aged.
I appreciate your honesty, but they're both great coaches. Good coach, and I think Vrabel is incredibly underrated. And I'm actually not even sure why. Maybe because he looks like a linebacker still, and sometimes you don't take linebackers seriously. I have no idea, but he does a great job. It feels like play in and play out. And when we want to blame people, Breech, about the Titans' shortcomings, usually we just point the finger at Todd Downing and move on from there. But I thought Todd Downing did a good job tonight. Ryan Tannehill played great, except for that one interception, which was probably more a great play by Rasul Douglas than anything else. And if Ryan Tannehill is going to play like this, along with Derrick Henry, who, by the way, he's averaging 131 rushing yards per game from November onward the last 3 seasons. So he's right on pace. They only had 87 tonight. But I feel like if those two things come together, even with some of the injuries, obviously, as Brinson noted, they're rolling in the division. But they might be sort of like last year's sleeper, Breech.
Well, here's the thing about the Titans is it's not like Vrabel. It's hard to say he's underrated because this guy won Coach of the Year last season. So people are aware of what he's doing. It's just that everyone sleeps on the Titans all the time. They are like the scrappy little brother who you don't think could ever beat you one-on-one. He goes out, drains 9 threes, hits you with a reverse layup, and then even though he's 5'9", he still dunks it, and you're like, holy crap, what the hell just happened? This guy just beat me 21-2 in a game to 21. And that's what the Titans are like because when we saw them face the Chiefs 2 weeks ago, it was this team's going to get smoked. They don't have their starting quarterback. There's no way they can win.
Wasn't Traylon Burks still on IR too when they faced the Chiefs?
Yeah, and you have Malik Willis making a start. You have just on paper that game should have been a 3-touchdown blowout, but the Titans took them to overtime and certainly could have won that game. And so I will say that, and I think I said that after that Chiefs game, is that the one thing Vrabel always does, his teams are always prepared. His defense are very disciplined, so you trust them against anyone. And so it just doesn't feel like the Titans are a team that can really get blown out, even though they get blown out in week 2 by the Bills. But, man, there's no reason they can't get the number 1 seed again this year.
You know what do you remember my Titans theory, Breech, as to why they're not popular?
Because they're in Nashville?
No, it's the opposite of that. They're not typically Nashvilleian in that they're not exciting. I think I said last year during the playoff run, and maybe after the Bengals won,
their personality doesn't fit the city. They're playing style.
Like the Bengals last year felt like a Nashville team because of the way they played, Joe Burrow being exciting, high-powered offense. It just feels like the Titans have never really been that. Maybe go back to Steve McNair days.
I forgot about your like Titans, the Derrick Henry and Tannehill don't fit Nashville theory.
Yeah,
I like it. I just forgot about it.
But I mean, yeah, like the Chiefs in Nashville make a ton of sense. Like high-powered offenses in that city makes sense, and I just think Nashville is more blue collar. I don't know. Would you describe Nashville as blue collar, Breech?
I mean, it's I'm not sure. I would
Look
describe
at Breach. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I mean, there's
right. It's not Pittsburgh. It's not Cleveland. It's Nashville.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. They should be in like Cleveland or like to your point, Ryan. They should swap with the Bengals and it's like Joe Burrow and the high flying like scoring circus in Nashville, like bachelorette party spot Burrow out of the town all the time. And instead, it's just very low key. Ryan Tannehill.
I feel like if any team matches the Nashville personality, it's the Chargers, where they have all the fireworks, but then crazy stuff always happens, like the bachelorette bus crashing or something with players getting injured.
And when you wake up like after the weekend, you feel just awful. Like nothing went your way.
How did this happen? How do we get here?
Someday
we'll have an off-season podcast where we match up teams with their cities.
So somebody called out the Titans earlier either today or this week. I can't remember if it was on the pregame show or what it was, but basically saying like, look, this team is going to pile up regular season wins. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to win the division. They're going to but then like, do you think the Titans, the way that they are constituted, can make a deep run in the playoffs? So they've been to the AFC Championship game. So I guess the answer is yes, but it does feel just like by virtue of the fact that they are hinging everything on Derrick Henry. Like Derrick Henry has to stay healthy and has to carry the ball 450 times. Even if Ryan Tannehill gets going, like his ceiling is still kind of capped, I guess. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, do you think, how confident would you be in the Titans making a run in this AFC?
So here's the thing. They're the 3rd seed right now. And so they would have to play on the road in Kansas City, hypothetically, and on the road in Miami. Now, if they play just hypothetically, if it comes down to that and they make a deep run, like on the road in Miami is interesting. I would imagine the Dolphins are probably -2.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Wait, so, what on the road in Miami? It'd be at home because they'd win the AFC South.
Yeah. The Dolphins currently are the Dolphins are the 2 seed right now.
Yeah, the Miami's number 2.
So Miami, right now, Miami would play New England. Buffalo, Tennessee would Buffalo at home.
I'm just doing the math of the teams ahead of them and what that would look like. I didn't want to overcomplicate it. I'm just trying to simplify it.
Well, I guess like Buffalo at home, at Miami, at KC. Like, hey, that's a tough.
So yeah, conceivably sure, and it all comes down to Derrick Henry. And the issue last year, as Breech well knows, is that Derrick Henry didn't play for the previous, month or whatever it was, for the foot injury. He came back against the Cincinnati game at home in Nashville and looked nothing like himself. And then Ryan Tannehill threw a bunch of terrible interceptions. If Ryan Tannehill plays like he did tonight and Derrick Henry plays like he usually does in post-November football, yeah, why not? They can just drag teams up and down the field and, do the thing that we saw. What was that? The Monday night game where Washington had 81 snaps and the Eagles had 40 snaps. You could do that. It's just, I don't know if that's sustainable over 2 or 3 or 4 games if you make it to the big dance there.
And the other thing we may need to look at too is let's look at their defense because, their 3 losses are to the Giants in week 1, which is a crazy, the Giants and their magic, bag of magic beans beat them 21-20. When Brian Daboll goes for 2 at the end, the blowout loss to the Bills 41-7. Man, 0-2 for the Titans feels like a long time ago. Then of course the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. But here are their points allowed. I'm going to leave. The Bills scored 41 on them. They dropped a nuke bomb in week 2 on them. But I'm going to leave that one out and list the rest of them. 21 points to the Giants, 22 to the Raiders, and a lot of that was garbage time. 17 to the Colts, 17 to the Commanders, 10 to the Colts, 10 to the Texans, 20 to the Chiefs in a losing effort, 10 to the Broncos, and then 17 tonight to the Packers. Like, this is a team that they're very good on defense. They're very disciplined, as you noted, Ryan, and they drag you into these rock fights. And if you want to go against Tennessee, like I think it was Tony Dungy who said it in the Chiefs ahead of the Chiefs game. It's like, watch the line of scrimmage because these guys can win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no, I think Breech touched on it. Just talking about the way they play, and I think it comes down to Mike Vrabel. And I think Mike Vrabel becomes more important as they get through the schedule. And Breech, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but the Steelers and the Bengals haven't played this weekend, and I imagine the Bengals going to roll. But next week, the Bengals have to go back to Nashville. I'm guessing you don't feel great about that game as we sit here as a Bengals fan.
If I had to make a pick on that right now, a lot of it depends on whether Jamar Chase plays. But that's trouble. The Titans are trouble. That's what it comes down to.
Let me double down on that question. What if you switch head coaches on that team? On
Well,
those two teams?
The Bengals are like a
10-point favorite.
The thing is, though, if the Titans struggle anything right now, it's in their secondary. They struggle a bit with the pass, and Aaron Rodgers was taking a little bit of advantage of that, but he had an off night, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So, if you're going to be able to beat them one way, you can throw the ball on them right now. So I think it'll be an interesting game. Like, that's a game that I think will be fun to watch.
Can the Bengals protect Burrow and get the ball out quickly for Burrow? Because the Titans, even with Harold Landry missing, Jeffrey Simmons is a problem in the interior. Man, that guy is devastating. Just sort of looking at, looking at the rest of the schedule for the Titans. Again, not to get too far ahead, but it's interesting. Bengals at home and then at Eagles the next 2 weeks. That should probably tell us a lot about them. They close out with a fairly friendly schedule. Jaguars twice, Texans actually very friendly schedule, at the Chargers, and then this is not in order, but and then the Cowboys at home. So you would think that if they split with the Bengals and the Eagles, probably go worst case 3-2, so 4-3, worst case the rest of the way in, which it's like worst case 11-6. That's going to win the division. Probably not going to get you the 1 seed, obviously, but you're going to have a home game.
Well, the thing is, though, these next 2 games with the Bengals and Eagles, those are games the Titans can absolutely win. Yeah. We saw what happened to the Eagles on the Monday night game. Was you had a team that just ran the ball and kept running the ball and played really good defense. And the Titans are like the Commanders on steroids because they run the ball better and they play defense better. So that's
scared me.
That is Philly. Hey, man, I'm talking about my own team. The Bengals could lose to the Titans. The Eagles could certainly lose to the Titans because they play the kind of football that the Eagles could struggle with. But Philly, you know what? There aren't many teams in the NFC that can do that. And the Commanders probably won't make the playoffs. So don't worry about them.
So something I want to note in terms of the Titans, someone in the comments mentioned, what do we mean when we say trust teams? I don't think that's a complicated concept. It's just the Titans.
Sorry.
Just that the Titans are a good team. They're playing some of their best football right now, but there are teams ahead of them like the Miami Dolphins and the Chiefs and the Bills with a healthy Josh Allen, who would be formidable opponents. That doesn't mean the Titans can't win those games, but if you do the old simulation conversation, they play 100 times. I don't think the Titans are, they're winning 44 as opposed to 53 or whatever it happens to be.
Well, part of trusting teams, real quick, Brinson, is the Bengals-Titans playoff game from last season is a good example where a lot of people were thinking, gosh, if the Titans lose this game, it's going to be because of Ryan Tannehill. And then Ryan Tannehill goes out and throws 3 interceptions. And that plays in the part of not trusting a team.
I might suggest, and I could be wrong, obviously. I've been wrong many times, that the Titans are kind of up there in terms of trustworthy teams. Because you mentioned that game, like Ryan Tannehill completely poops his pants in Nashville against the Bengals, and they still only lost by 19-16. I think just the way the Titans kind of play, that they can the Bills game is really an outlier.
Buffalo. The Bills game was 17-7 late in the third quarter, and then the wheels fell off the wagon. So
Buffalo had the longest? What was it, 11 or 12 days after the?
They played on the opening Thursday, and then that game was on Monday
or something.
And they had 4 more rest days or 3 more rest days in week 2, which is just ridiculous.
Right, which just makes a huge difference. So I think Tennessee. When I say this is a tough, I think they're pretty trustworthy in terms of what you're going to get, and if they get down and Tannehill has to throw a ton, and he's off. Obviously that's going to be a problem, but he's an underrated quarterback too. I think I know you guys don't think Mike Vrabel likes him. I think Vrabel loves him because he'll go to war with him.
No, I think he likes him.
And Treylon Burks, pretty good game. Although, man, the Packers defense might not be very good.
Yeah,
well,
I think
say this.
Real quick, Wilson, I think what Wilson and I have always said about Tannehill, we don't think Vrabel doesn't like him. We think Vrabel would upgrade in a second if he had a chance, which is a huge difference.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels would doesn't hate Derek Carr, but he would upgrade in a second if he could.
I think that I think Vrabel might be interested in Derek Carr over Ryan Tannehill. I'm speculating, but I
don't want to suggest that Derek Carr is not as tough as Ryan Tannehill, because I think he's very tough. But I think Ryan Tannehill is more of a Mike Vrabel doesn't want Derek Carr moving next to him. I'll tell you that much.
What?
Exactly. That's Mike Vrabel's reaction when Derek Carr buys the house next to Mike Vrabel. He's like, what are you doing here, buddy? It's like, I just wanted to, hang out, coach.
So, Brinson, you mentioned Treylon Burks, and this just is another sort of conversation that you should have about where you take these wide receivers, because he was a first-round pick. They traded A.J. Brown, and, in retrospect, and it doesn't matter which direction you're looking at it, the A.J. Brown trade, doesn't reflect well on the Titans. A.J. Brown won it out, clearly, and he's having a great season. But Treylon Burks, as you noted, balled out tonight finally. 7 catches, 111 yards, including, which I thought this play was sort of a microcosm of this game in that one team seemed more prepared than the other, and it was just before the 2-minute warning. And instead of running the ball and trying to run the clock out, Tannehill throws a bomb to Treylon Burks against Jair Alexander, who probably thought they were just going to run the ball and get to the 2-minute warning down to the 5-yard line, and then the game ends that way. And that just feels like little differences that show up over the course of a game and over the course of the season. But coming into this game, you mentioned he had been on IR, Treylon Burks, earlier in the season, and he had never caught more than 4 passes in the game and never had more than 55 receiving yards. Still doesn't have a touchdown, a receiving touchdown. But I mentioned him in terms of the draft because he went in the first round. You know who went in the second round? Christian Watson. And Christian Watson had 2 touchdowns tonight. He had 3 or 4 on Sunday. After having 0 before that, after struggling with drops. And I think just, you got to be patient with these guys on some level. But in Treylon Burks' case, he was supposed to step in right away for A.J. Brown. A ton of pressure, was banged up in training camp, was banged up at the beginning of the season. So it's good to see him play well. That's another guy who's going to have to step up because Robert Woods hasn't been as advertised since he arrived.
I'm curious. I don't know the answer to this. I'm just sort of throwing it out. But so the Titans took Treylon Burks with 18th overall in the first round with a pick that they acquired in the A.J. Brown deal. And then they also had the 26th pick overall and traded with the Jets, who came up to get Jermaine Johnson. The Titans moved back to 35th. And right before they were about to pick, the Packers traded up in front of them and got Christian Watson. Do you think there's a chance that the Titans might have grabbed Watson there too?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah.
Just because they have so many needs. I mean, maybe, though, because they did get rid of A.J. Brown, and in hindsight, you're absolutely taking Christian Watson there if you knew he was going to play like this no matter what. They ended up getting Roger McCreary, who played tonight, who's a good player. They needed help in the secondary, so he certainly helps there. But, there are worse decisions to be made, and I would point that right back at the Packers. So, we're getting – I'm in draft season all the time, but we're getting towards the legit conversations about terrible teams and their drafts. And this is a talking point last year, and it'll be a talking point this year. The last time the Packers drafted a wide receiver in the first round was 2002, Javon Walker. But I was doing something today on HQ, and I looked. The last 12 first-round picks that the Packers have had, how many do you think have been on offense?
1.
And you know who it is?
Yes.
And they traded up for that guy in the deepest wide receiver class in human history.
He's the only out of 12. He's the only one.
The previous 11 out of 12 have been defensive players. Not bad defensive players. Some didn't pan out, but I mean,
the defense isn't very good right now.
Sweet Moses, what are we doing?
Yeah.
The point real quick about the receivers, it's not just Treylon Burks because you look at, Tannehill hasn't had a lot of time to build chemistry, and we keep talking about. People have talked all season about Aaron Rodgers and him trying to build his chemistry with his new group of receivers, or trying to get things going with Christian Watson, which appears to be finally happening after 10 or 11 weeks. And then you look at Robert Woods. The guy had a torn ACL last season. He was slow in practice, wasn't getting acclimated right away. And now he's in his first season in a new offense, and he has looked better every week. He's not A.J. Brown, but he has looked better every week. And he had 6 catches for 69 yards tonight. And real quick on Treylon Burks is that I think this was only the 3rd or 4th game he has played with Tannehill, because he's only played in 5 games all season, and 2 of them were the Malik Willis games. So, you're talking about a guy who hasn't been on the field a lot with Tannehill. And so, if he's having 100-yard games, this is Mike Vrabel. I'm guarantee you loved what happened tonight because he knows what the Titans offense is capable of now with Robert Woods and Treylon Burks both getting more comfortable.
Well, and the other thing about Robert Woods is, and this is widely understood, is he is one of the 5 best run blocking wide receivers in the league, which is part of why they traded for him, because they wanted wide receivers who could help them block on the outside because they are a run first team. And that's what Robert Woods helps them do. So, yeah, I mean, it is one of the things where before the season you're looking at it, you're like, all right, Traylon Burks and Robert Woods. I mean, this just isn't going to work. Like you had AJ Brown and Julio Jones and it didn't work. Why would you think it's going to work now? But the way Henry's running, the way the defense is playing, despite the fact that they're missing, key players, and the way that, Tannehill sort of elevates the offense, this is a very dangerous team. Let me ask you this. Do you think that are we worried at all about Derrick Henry's workload? Because it was about this time last year when he had all those carries and it just sort of caught up with him. He is now, after he was leading the league coming in with 202 carries into this game, and he carried the ball 28 times. So he's had 230 carries through 10 games. Pretty easy math there. You do that over the course of the season, assuming they play all 17, that's 391 rushing attempts. I mean, that is a whole lot of rushing attempts. And I just wonder with the foot injury from last year, if they might be a little more conservative coming down the stretch, if they feel like they've got the division sewn up.
Breech, in 2020, Derrick Henry had 378 attempts, career high. The next year, he played 8 games, which was last season, and obviously had the foot injury. So I'll let you answer the question if you're concerned or not.
Did you hear the broadcast? I mean, Kirk Herbstreit said they were talking to Derrick Henry's trainer, and that Derrick Henry's getting better with age, and he getting crazy. Well, I mean, he could have not told the story, not said anything.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, I remember I did Bill Barnwell's pod last year, and I think it was after like the eighth Titan game of the season, and we were like, okay, you know what? Maybe the rule of 370 just doesn't apply to Derrick Henry. Maybe he's just a freak of nature who can just take as many carries as he wants and just not get injured. And then he immediately got hurt. I mean, I'm not saying we jinxed him. It's just like, I mean, that's like Derrick Henry, if you add in tonight, over the past 4 years, has 1,130 carries. That is a ton of carries, man. And I get that he's getting stronger and he's led the league in rushing 2 out of the last 4 years. He leads the league in carries, 3 out of the last 4 years. But I mean, if I'm the Titans, I'm trolling the waiver wire and trying to find like somebody who could give us some depth. So when
I have a thought, keep Donta Foreman, excuse me.
Yeah, okay.
Donta Foreman was great. Do you guys know who's currently second?
Dontrell Hilliard
on the team in rushing attempts?
Malik Willis.
Tannehill?
Ryan Tannehill. And then Dontrell Hilliard.
Okay. Willis is probably 4th.
And then Malik Willis is 4th, and Hassan Haskins, who returns kicks, primarily the rookie, is after that. But the point, and then Traylon Burks is after that. So that tells you how little depth there is. But I think at this point, I think you're right. You troll the waiver wire. But at this point, it's like when your check engine light comes on and you're in the middle of the desert. You ain't going to stop. You just got to keep going and hope you make it to the gas station.
It feels, I mean, he's not hurt or anything. It's just,
right. I mean, it could be just a faulty light switch or whatever. Right. I don't know cars, but I ain't stopping.
That might be the perfect analogy for Josh Allen.
Well, hurry and put it on Twitter because it's going to go away. I want to get my money's worth on that one.
What? All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll find out if Twitter's still around and discuss. We'll do a little RIP for the 2022 Green Bay Packers. Next. So the good news for the Packers. Oh, sorry, Breech. What's up?
I got a Titans fun fact before we get to the Packers.
Perfect. Oh boy.
Ryan Tannehill averaged 12.3 yards per pass attempt against Green Bay on Thursday night. That is the second highest total by a visiting QB in the history of Lambeau Field.
Wow. Who's
you guys each get one guess.
Okay.
Who had?
Can you give us is it like Favre era or Rodgers era?
1998.
Ooh, 98. Dante Culpepper.
By a visiting QB.
Dante Culpepper's a great guess.
Easy. That's a home run. It has to be Dante. That team went.
Culpepper, I don't want to keep guessing. So
let's say 15-1. That team went.
It is not Culpepper, so you can take your guess, Brinson.
1998.
I'm going to call for a recount, Breech.
Is it? Drew Bledsoe?
This is from our CBS Sports.
Bledsoe was drafted in
2000.
2000.
Doug Clawson and Wilson, you are going to hate yourself because you practically nailed the answer.
Is it Randall?
Culpepper's rookie year was 99, and this happened in 98.
Randall.
And it was the Vikings QB, and it was Randall Cunningham.
Dang it to heck. As the
Wait,
kids say.
Wait,
all right.
Wait. So was Drew? Are you right about that?
Yeah, he wasn't drafted until 2001, second round.
Bledsoe was drafted in 93.
Oh, I'm thinking Drew Brees. My bad.
Oh, I was like, am I insane?
I know he wasn't drafted in 93.
Where Drew Bledsoe is older than
you want to hear a quick story about Drew Bledsoe? When I lived in Boston, me and my buddy were flying back from out west to visit our friend. This is 1998. We're in Logan Airport, down getting our bags, and I dookie you not, Drew Bledsoe was standing at the baggage carousel picking up a trash bag with duct tape for his luggage.
Yes, love it.
True story.
It's like it's insane. That's sort of like the Breech's dad story about getting hitchhiking with a waitress in the AFC Championship game. It's like that stuff would never happen now. Like you'd be like Bledsoe's got a car, and all that stuff.
What had to happen to that man for him to have luggage that's a trash bag?
Sure.
Desperation is a stinky cologne.
Amen to that.
You're talking about like Drew Bledsoe and not Ryan Leaf, right?
Yeah, 100% Drew Bledsoe.
Okay. According to Carmen Vitale, who is a reporter who covers the Packers, somebody asked Aaron Rodgers, "Where do you go from here, Aaron?" Aaron's response: "Breech,
home."
It's not find the lie, I guess.
I'm going home, guys. Bye.
He's dressed up like a burglar. Is he gonna?
That's where I would go if I was 4-7 and out of the playoff race.
I mean, I got to tell you, I don't want to. Well, I mean, we blame it on Rodgers. I mean, his ball placement was all over the place tonight. He missed a lot of wide open throws. He had a couple of great moments. Christian Watson definitely is sort of justifying that's why we moved up in the second round and grabbed him. He looks like he could be a future number one. He's performing at a higher level than most Packers rookie wide receivers. But clearly, this is just a supremely flawed Packers team that couldn't be what they wanted to be.
It's funny you mentioned the Christian Watson sort of coming into his own because, it's hard to be patient with young players because you want your team to, especially when your team's playing like crap. But Brady mentioned this the other day. He said, go look at Jordy Nelson, go look at who are the other some of the other second round receivers like Randall Cobb, Greg Jennings. That's the one I was thinking of. All their numbers, Devontae Adams, all their numbers are average numbers, and maybe even below average in terms of what they produce as rookies. So this isn't uncommon, but it doesn't change the frustration. I was laughing when you mentioned that Aaron Rodgers missing some throws because there's that deep end that he missed Sammy Watkins by what looked like 4 yards in the middle of the field. And my initial reaction was to blame Sammy Watkins because the pants he was wearing looked like my Sunday school pants from 8th grade when I was, 18 years old and couldn't fit into them. So I was like, okay, this guy clearly is not trying, but I don't think that was the issue. I think Aaron was just off, and usually Aaron glares at guys who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Aaron seemed more upset with himself a lot tonight. So yeah, I don't know. Breech doesn't feel like we've talked about this before. Like sometimes he'll go into halftime and be like, I'm done and just sort of check out mentally. It doesn't feel like that's the case. It feels like he's trying. It just feels like he's having a couple big bin in the last hurrah moments as we, come down the stretch here.
Hey, I got not a trivia question, but I guess it's sort of trivia. When is the last time Aaron Rodgers had a 300-yard passing game?
Whew. Last season?
Yeah, I don't think he's had one this year, has he?
December 12th, 2021.
Dang, 11 months. That's
Week
not great.
14 of 2021 season. Tonight, I think it's too, I think Brady talked about this, I'm pretty sure Brady talked about this, or maybe it was Aaron Nagler talked about this on the pod. But you could clearly see Rodgers' mechanics have just sort of, I don't want to, I'm trying to the best way to phrase it. I don't think he's being lazy. It's just the lack of, he's pressing and it's causing his mechanics to change. Like the throw to Lazard, where Lazard's running wide ass open across the middle. And it's an easy throw that Rodgers makes 99 times out of 100 in his sleep over the course of his career. You can just see he's sort of in on the back, his back of his heels. He's not stepping into the throw and he sails it a bit and it's over Lazard's head and they don't convert and they have to punt. And then they have the Sammy Watkins throw where he was wide open. And there's a couple of those. He was holding the ball, tentative. And it's hard to know for sure. Is that Rodgers? Is that his receivers? But he did not play well tonight. He was bad. He missed a ton of throws that he can't miss. The ball placement was all over the place, through behind open guys, through high on open guys. And I mean, I'm not saying that's the difference of the game, but
it is.
It is, right? If he hits a couple of those throws and they convert those longer third downs or the shorter third downs, they go get scores, and they're not down 10 with 5 minutes left, desperately trying to go for it on 4th and 1 with a draw to Aaron Jones at the middle.
Hey, Breech, someone in the comment asked earlier before we started talking about the Packers, how long do you watch this before, and this is a conversation you always have, but you've not had it with Aaron Rodgers. How long before you go look to see what you have in Jordan Love? Because once you bench him, he's going to keep walking. He's going home, just like he said tonight.
He's going home and he's not coming back. Right. And
you've got the thumb though. Like you could argue like, hey, look.
You know what he's going to do, Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, no. You can argue. You can tell that to the public so that he saves face. But Aaron Rodgers is not going to save face with Aaron Rodgers, where he's going to be like, "You're trying to bench me for Jordan Love, the guy that you drafted in the first round and traded up to get, the guy who made me so angry and irate that I went out and won 2 straight MVPs." And no, that's not happening. I cannot imagine Rodgers would take that well. Although, if once you're eliminated from the playoffs or you get to the back end of the schedule with 3 or 4 games left and you have no shot, it's like, why not see what Jordan Love has?
You just answered your own question, I think, right?
I just think when you look at like the Rams with Stafford and the Packers with Rodgers, it's when you're out of the playoff race. And I mean, I think both teams are out, but the NFC is,
not officially.
Right.
There's a path.
Man, it's a long way to the top.
They have to go 6-0 to get to 10-7. We've been talking about like 10 is that magic number.
I think as long as they can get to 10 wins, I cannot see a way that Rodgers is willing to sit on the bench.
Well, they're not getting to 10 wins.
Well, but I'm saying if they win their next 2, I can't see him sitting as long as they get to 9 wins, honestly.
So once you lose that 9th game and you can't even have a winning record, you think that's where LaFleur starts thinking like, maybe we got to bench Aaron. But that's their relationship. There is no way.
Well, he's thinking that already. The question that you have to ask is, will Aaron be okay with it? I don't think so 2 weeks from now.
But couldn't it be spun as not a benching of Rodgers, but a showcasing of Love?
You can call it whatever you want to, but Rodgers, he ain't no dummy. He's going to be like, yeah, I know what this is. You're trying to Eli Manning me with Geno Smith.
It was the thing with Love though. Like if you could showcase me, look good, and you could trade him this offseason for a wide receiver, like a Chase Claypool, Kadarius Toney.
What do you mean?
I said you go get Rodgers some help.
When you can't now, how are you going to do it?
You showcase him this season. You showcase him at the end of this season.
Oh, Rodgers is done. I don't think Rodgers is coming back. I think he's had enough. This sort of weekly frustration. And not necessarily, with LaFleur or whatever, but with the fact that the receivers are young and nothing's working. I mean, you get tired of losing, especially when you're so used to winning. And as Breech noted, winning all these MVPs in a post-Jordan Love draft world. I feel like, man, he's like, that's going to be it for me.
I can never remember this, and I'm sorry, but I should. But like, if he retires, did they just take his cap hit, or did they have to deal with his?
Breech is our cap expert. Breech, what do you have?
I can never remember the retirement.
Whatever guaranteed money they paid out is front loaded.
But if he retires, it's not like they cut him.
Right.
Yeah. So he doesn't have a $99 million dead cap hit if he retires. Right? Right.
Because, they don't have to pay him any of the guarantee. So it's not going to be as high as the number would be if they cut him.
Right.
I don't know what the number would be.
His guaranteed salary for next year is like $1.165 million. And he's a $31.6 million cap hit. If they cut him, they would have a $99.8 million dead cap hit. So you're not going to cut him.
I'm going to make a prediction right now. They're going to showcase Jordan Love over the final 5 or 6 games. They're going to trade Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers is then going to promptly retire.
Here it is from Spot Track. They must have he tweeted this out in October.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
So that's when the Packers started to struggle. It was like, Aaron Rodgers might be done. So clearly we've been thinking this for a month and a half now. Long story short, Aaron Rodgers' contract was structured year to year for retirement purposes. If he retires after the 2022 season, the Packers will be left with a $40.3 million dead cap hit.
I mean, that's not insubstantial.
But it's not $99 million.
Right.
Maybe he'll restructure his contract right before he retires. That seems like
Drew Brees.
Yeah.
At any rate, I mean, the point being is like,
unless he gets benched for Jordan Love, then he's not going to help them at all.
No.
Then he's gonna be like, I'm not even retiring. I'm just not showing up, and you're taking the $99 million cap hit.
And you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
He breaks into Brian Gutekunst's office and like files the paperwork to cut himself. And after they traded for Jordan Love away, so they have a no quarterback and a $99 million dead cap hit, and he burnt bridges harder than Brett Favre did on the way out of town. All right, anything else on this game?
So next week at Philadelphia, and then at Chicago, and then a bye. So let's just quickly say in 2 weeks, they're 4-7 now. What do you think?
I think they go 1-1 in those 2 games.
Okay.
Probably beat the Bears, but I'm not going to say.
You don't feel great about it.
They'll beat the Bears.
Right.
Rodgers ain't going out.
So if they go 1-1, that puts them at 5-8 going.
And then Rodgers is not sitting down. He's playing the rest of the year.
I mean, look, I'm not trying to get booed by Billy here, but I mean, he can go steal one against the Eagles on Sunday Night Football.
What gives you
The fact
any
that they just
sense
lost Taylor Heineke.
But I'm talking about the Packers. Like, what gives you any confidence in this Packers team that has showed?
I don't have confidence in them beating the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. I'm just saying, like, if they stole one and then they beat the Bears,
Oh gosh. Okay.
and then all of a sudden you got the Rams and the Dolphins and the Vikings and the Lions up.
I'm going to predict that we see Jordan Love in Week 18, but not before that. I feel like they're going to win one of these games, and then Aaron Rodgers is going to play it out, and then they're going to have to straitjacket him to the bench in Week 18 so they can put Jordan Love out there against the Lions.
It's just so backbreaking to come back like in that crazy game against the Cowboys, steal that one away from Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, and then you're hosting,
You could argue that the Cowboys stole that game away from themselves.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, you get that game, and then you're hosting the Titans in prime time on Thursday, where you'd have a really long bye, like a mini bye between Titans and Eagles. You'd feel so confident going to Philadelphia, and you have an easy schedule down the stretch, and now.
Well, they don't have an easy schedule down the stretch. I mean, the Rams aren't good, but they have at Miami, Minnesota. I'm guessing the Vikings will still be good by then. People get mad at me for not giving Kirk Cousins his.
The Packers are 2-0 this season when Rodgers throws 25 passes or less, 2-6 when he throws more than 20.
And he doesn't have a 300-yard game. Craziness.
I wonder if he knows that stat.
I wouldn't tell him. He'll be mad about it. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Fight that Brinson. Make sure and check out the Pick Spot in the feed tomorrow. You can watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. For Breech, for Wilson, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later.